Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're breaking down the choice between two absolute giants in the world of system monitoring, Splunk and Grafana. If you're trying to make sense of your system's data, well, this is the deep dive you have been waiting for.
So, let's be real. In this day and age, our systems are just generating this overwhelming flood of data, right? But here's the thing. Just having data isn't the same as actually having answers. The real challenge, the thing that keeps engineers up at night, is figuring out how to turn all that noise into a clear, actionable signal that tells you what's really going on.
And that's exactly why this isn't just some simple technical decision. No, this is a strategic one. The tool you end up choosing is going to fundamentally shape your budget, how your team works together, and this is the big one, how fast you can find and fix problems when things inevitably go wrong.
All right, so let's dive right in. But first, let's get on the same page about what we're even trying to observe in these complex systems of ours.
The whole goal of any of these modern platforms is to collect three core signals. First, you've got your metrics. Think of these as your numbers, like CPU usage. Then you've got logs. These are the event records that tell you what happened. And finally, you have traces, which are super cool. They follow a single request journey all the way through your entire system. The real magic happens when you can bring all three of those together, correlate them, and get that complete picture of your system's health.
Okay, so Splunk and Grafana both tackle this exact challenge, but, and this is key, they do it with fundamentally different approaches. It's actually really helpful to think of them as two distinct philosophies for solving the very same problem.
So on one hand, you've got Splunk. Think of it like a fortress. It's this powerful, self-contained, all-in-one platform that just ingests and indexes everything you can throw at it. Then, on the other hand, you have Grafana. This is more like a Swiss Army knife. It's an open-source tool that adapts to the tools you already have, connecting to your existing data wherever it happens to live.
And this, right here, is what I think reframes the entire debate. This isn't about which tool has a longer list of features. Not at all. It's a strategic decision that comes down to your organization's philosophy. Do you want total control? Are you optimizing for cost? And, maybe most importantly, what skills does your team already have in-house?
Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. Let's see how those different philosophies actually translate into their core capabilities. And we're going to start with the very foundation, their architecture and how they handle data.
And this table really just lays out the core architectural trade-off perfectly. With Splunk's centralized model, where it pulls in and indexes everything, you get incredibly fast and predictable search performance. But what's the catch? Well, you're pretty much locked into their ecosystem. Grafana, on the other hand, with its decoupled model, offers massive flexibility. It can connect to dozens of data sources, but its performance is only ever as good as the back-end systems that you've set up.
So this big architectural difference leads directly to how you actually talk to your data. Splunk has its own powerful language, it's called SPL, and it's amazing for complex log analysis, but it has a really steep learning curve, and honestly, it isn't useful anywhere else. Grafana lets your team use the native language of whatever data source they're using, like PromQL for Prometheus metrics or good old SQL for databases, which is fantastic if your team already has those skills.
All right, now let's talk about what you actually see on the screen. When it comes to visualization, Grafana is without a doubt the king of beautiful, pixel-perfect dashboards for real-time monitoring. Splunk's dashboards, they're very functional for sure, but they definitely prioritize analytical depth over pretty visuals. So the question you have to ask is, do you need those stunning, at-a-glance dashboards for your operations center, or do you need powerful, deep-dive analytical views for your security team?
All right, let's talk about the one factor that, let's be honest, often ends up driving the entire decision: money. But we're not just going to look at the sticker price. We need to look at the true cost of ownership.
So Splunk's pricing is, well, it's famously based on how much data you ingest per day. And for a typical enterprise-scale deployment, the list prices can be absolutely staggering. Think about this. A brief spike in data, maybe something goes wrong, can drive up your costs for the entire month. This forces teams to be super careful about what they even decide to send to be indexed.
Now, in sharp contrast, Grafana's pricing is, well, it's a whole lot more approachable. The core software itself is open source and completely free. And if you go with their managed cloud offering, it starts with a simple per-user fee, and that's built on top of a really generous free tier for metrics, logs, and traces to get you started.
But, the license fee is really just the starting point. The real conversation here is about people costs versus platform costs. To run Splunk effectively, you often need dedicated admins, people who are certified experts in its specific language. With Grafana, sure, the platform cost is lower, but your people cost shifts. Now you need engineers who have broad skills across that whole open source ecosystem, things like Prometheus for metrics and Loki for logs. At the end of the day, either way, you're investing in specialized knowledge.
Okay, so with all these complex trade-offs floating around, architecture, cost, expertise, how on earth do you actually decide which platform is the right one for you and your team? Well, here's the breakdown. You should probably lean towards Splunk when security is your absolute #1 priority. I'm talking if your work revolves around a Security Operations Center, a SOC, and something called SIEM, which stands for Security Information and Event Management. If you're in a highly regulated industry with super strict compliance mandates, then Splunk's integrated security and audit capabilities, they were literally built for you.
Now, on the flip side, you're going to want to lean towards Grafana when your main focus is on things like DevOps workflows, infrastructure monitoring, and, of course, cost control. If you're a cloud-native organization, you value those beautiful visualizations and architectural flexibility, and you really want to avoid vendor lock-in. Well, Grafana's open-source model is just a natural fit.
And hey, remember, Splunk and Grafana aren't the only players in this game. You've got tools like Datadog that offer a really unified SaaS experience, but you got to watch out for some complex pricing there. And then there are open source alternatives like Signaz and Uptrace that are really gaining ground by focusing on the modern open telemetry standard. They offer a whole other path to getting that unified observability.
And this brings us to a really crucial insight, one that the most mature organizations have figured out. It's not always an either-or decision. In fact, the smartest strategy is often a hybrid one, using the right tool for the right job. So what does that look like? Well, it could mean your DevOps teams live inside Grafana, watching those beautiful real-time dashboards for operational health. At the same time, a carefully curated stream of critical security events gets sent over to Splunk, where your security team uses its powerful analytics for threat hunting and compliance. See? You get the best of both worlds.
At the end of the day, the right choice for you today is the one that empowers your team to solve problems faster, while still giving you the flexibility to adapt for whatever comes tomorrow. So the real question isn't just about what you need right now, it's about what your organization's future is going to require. Your tools should be there to enable that future, not hold it back.